The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Ever since Roberto Luongo came to town in 2006, the Canucks have had consistently some of the best goaltending in the NHL. Well, guess what now? The Canucks have the best goaltending in the NHL. More on that next here on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host here of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer for Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the show, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. It is your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you haven't done so already, and if you like what we're doing, make sure you go subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I also got to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Guess what? Another day, another win for your Vancouver Canucks. 5-2 over the Nashville Predators. All four lines getting in on the scoring. And guess what? It was another rock-solid goaltending performance by a Canucks goaltender. Doesn't matter whether it's Demko. Doesn't matter if it's DeSmith. The Canucks have the best goaltending in the NHL this season. That might be a bit bullish. We're going to dive into that.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't, dude.
Well.
Dude, man.
It's called a tease. Okay?
All right, man. Come on, man. West Coast bias only here, man. Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bound, Locked On Canucks. I just cut you off. I don't care, man. I'm back, okay? Look at this. Elston, what a name. Elston Gunn. Kyle is just a fact bound in the building. You couldn't hold me down for 2 days, man. No way, no chance. Again, Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. And I'm just feeling as if we're getting closer and closer and closer to getting some respect across the league. Because I feel as if when the Canucks were successful in October, in the middle of November, it was PDO. And I know right now, after this stretch of games, it's still PDO. Like, oh, the regression is coming. The Vancouver Canucks, blah, blah, blah. They're not this good, blah, blah, blah. Good goaltending. 5 goals on 14 shots. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always something, but the more and more I've seen this team play recently and in their wins, I'm loving the fact that it is a complete team effort. And this is how you win in the long term. And you brought this up when I was stressing out, when I was panicking, when I was on the bridge, okay? When I was calling my mom and dad after games, just crying, okay? Sobbing, scared that this was all a facade. You told me that, yo, slow down. It is what it is. You looked at the other things. You looked at the depth on the team. They were playing well. And at the end of the day, Rick Tocchet and company, they don't want to win games just in November and December. They're looking to build on something, and so they can use a template that they can then use in April and May. And I don't know, what I'm seeing in recent history with the Vancouver Canucks over the last couple of games, it seems like they're playing smart, simple, yet playoff hockey, and it's something that I love, man, for real.
And there's so many things working with this team right now. You know, like you said, smart, simple playoff hockey. You know, the defense is playing pretty well. The forwards, all 4 lines are scoring. But what we're going to talk about today, at least in the first part of the show, is the goaltenders, okay? Because Thatcher Demko and Jase DeSmith are, for my money, the best tandem in the NHL this season. We'll see later on in the show. We will talk a little bit more about the forwards, and I also want to talk about Nikita Zadorov and his favorite defenseman. I'll give you a hint. It's not Quinn Hughes. We'll get to that in the last part of the show and sprinkle in a little Preds Canucks recap throughout. But first and foremost, the goaltending, okay? Last night, Jase DeSmith got back in the net, and now he's allowed, 3 goals in his last 3 games. Pretty good little bounce back for DeSmith, who, you know, he had 2 regulation losses there in November and then didn't see the crease for a while. That's what happens when you're the backup, when you're playing behind Thatcher Demko, when you're on a team like the Canucks, who is rolling right now. But DeSmith has been rock solid. I was there for the Minnesota shutout. Again, he really kept the team in it on that Saturday game against Minnesota as well. But man, oh man, I think for my money, and I think the numbers back it up, the only competitor to the Canucks right now in terms of goaltending success, best goaltending tandem, is the Boston Bruins with Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark. But the reason why I think the Canucks have the best goaltending tandem so far this season is both DeSmith and Demko have been way above league average. In Boston, you have Jeremy Swayman, who, in fairness, is a better save percentage than either Demko or DeSmith, right? His save percentage is 933 right now. Linus Ullmark, though, is at 912, the Vezina winner from last season. The Canucks with DeSmith and Demko, 2 goaltenders with above a 920 save percentage, baby. That's teamwork. That's camaraderie. That's, the defense playing relatively well in front of them. And Kyle, how many times did we say in the offseason that, the Canucks defense was so bad last year? If the Canucks defense can be even league average, you think that Demko could carry this team to great heights. And lo and behold, you look at kind of the high danger chances, the Canucks are smack dab in the middle. They're about league average. When you include both power play, PK, 5-on-5. And then lo and behold, not just Demko, but Casey DeSmith have been so solid for this team. I'm not going to lie. With the backup goalie, it's hard to know what's really going to happen, but I didn't see DeSmith being this good.
And let us know in the comments or in the live chat right now. Are you pressing the acceleration button and are you signing Casey DeSmith to an extension? Because, the Vancouver Canucks in totality have become a way better team. And Beggsy has mentioned it many times, team defense, just team morale, structure, and all that. It's leveled up tenfold. It really has. But a huge reason, a big reason, look at the stats. Look how many wins Casey DeSmith has kind of gotten by himself, okay, so far this season. He's a huge reason why the Canucks are at the top of the NHL standings. It's just the truth. And I know we got Silovs and company down there, maybe a new backup coming in 2025, 2024, 2025. But man, oh man, the way Casey DeSmith is playing, he's like one of the MVPs of all backup goaltenders in hockey. It's just the truth. How are the Rangers tandem doing? Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick, who's kind of, I don't know if he's popping the blue pill and found some youth in his step, but he's kind of back, man. He's kind of back.
Well, I'll bring up this little graphic that I wanted to highlight because it really shows which goaltenders have been the best in the NHL this season. So it shows goals saved above expected for those that aren't on YouTube and are listening on audio. It's the top 12 goaltenders this season in terms of goals saved above expected per 60. And guess what? The only goaltenders up there that are on the same team are Thatcher Demko and Casey DeSmith, which to me highlights, again, how good this tandem's been. It's not just Demko playing out of his mind. And again, Demko's in that Vezina conversation, but DeSmith has been rock solid too. Kyle, as for the Rangers, you see from this chart that Jonathan Quick actually has the best goals saved above expected per 60 this season. Jonathan Quick has been so damn good. Like I said, popping that blue pill, turning back the clock, whatever it is. He's 9-0-1, has not lost in regulation yet. But
that's nuts.
What's it called? What's his name? Igor Shesterkin. He's been kind of league average this season. Looks like he has a 906 save percentage. Again, the league average this year has been 903, which is actually, again, it's been trending down for a long time, but a 903 save percentage would be the lowest save percentage we've seen in one season since the 2005-2006 lockout, when the average save percentage was 9.901. So yeah, for the Rangers tandem, again, Shesterkin's been a bit average this year, and it's been kind of surprisingly Jonathan Quick who has been picking things up there.
Jonathan Quick, a legend. Casey DeSmith has played with a lot of legends. Here's Elston Gunn again with the comment. The most impressive thing about Casey DeSmith is the vibe he brings. Dude always has a massive smile on his face, whether he is starting or backing up Demko. And again, we talked about Jonathan Quick being a legend. Casey DeSmith, a true pro. Why? Because he played with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And he's just around legacy. And I think he's bringing some of that swagger over here. I mean, we are the Pittsburgh Canucks. That has a lot to do with it too, man. So much has changed with the Vancouver Canucks. And I know we poke fun at the fact that, again, we're making most of our trades, 84% of our trades with the Penguins. Well, that's not the worst team to trade with. Remember who we were trading with like in the early 2010s and maybe like the mid 2010s a lot with? The Florida Panthers. Huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think another key for Casey DeSmith, big disc golf fan, you got to have a nice escape away from the ring. Yeah, Casey DeSmith is like a disc golf enthusiast. He's been interviewed. I did a Casey DeSmith story for Daily Hive when the Canucks first acquired him. And I found more interviews with DeSmith from like disc golf channels than I did from NHL channels. This guy's like a semi-pro disc golf player, just like loves the sport. So you got to have your escape away from the rink, right? And DeSmith, again, I think he knows how to be relaxed out there. And he's been around, like you said, Kyle, been around the game a long time. He knows his role as a backup. But for the most part, he's been definitely an above average backup. And then maybe one of the last things we'll talk about before we get to cut to break here is you mentioned the contract for DeSmith.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if you're Patrick Allvin, are you looking to sign DeSmith around this time, or are you waiting to the end of the season? And regardless, what kind of contract would you be wanting to give this guy or comfortable giving him?
I'm going to bring up something really not that relatable right now when it comes to handing out contracts, but I got to do it because it's the West Coast bias, and we took a lot of abuse. I've been mentioning this all week, all right, from the Ottawa Senators fans way back in the day when we were dropping episodes comparing the teams, who's going to have a better season, who's going to win the cup first, blah, blah, blah. And they were coming after us. And I mentioned that if I'm an Ottawa Senators fan, I'm not extremely happy that before those guys learned how to play defense, before they learned anything about structure, you already gave them 8-year deals to a lot of their star players. Now, turning that back to what you just asked, Casey DeSmith, not a star, not one of those core members, but I would be a little hesitant on extending him, Zadorov, Ian Cole, Lafferty, Teddy Bluger in general, because I'm juicing those guys. I'm getting all I can from those guys before you reward them with an extension, because they got a lot to play for. They got a lot to prove. Canucks have again, let's be honest. We're all human beings watching this program, listening to this program. We're all human beings, bro. Think about that scenario when you don't have a contract at the end of the year. You're kind of, don't get me wrong, you're playing for the Vancouver Canucks, but you're playing for yourself. Every game really, really matters. And I think we're benefiting a lot from the fact that we have a bunch of guys on this team wanting more money, not having security and ultimately having, again, a lot to prove.
Yeah, and we'll get to Zadorov's comments at the end of the show. Again, Zadorov was on the Dropping the Gloves podcast earlier this week, and he kind of joked about how his longest deal was his 3-year entry-level contract. And he's like, yeah, he only takes 1 or 2 year deals because it keeps him honest, He was obviously kidding, but there's some truth in that joke, right? You definitely play, I think, a little bit more on edge when you know that you're up for a new contract in a year or two.
I got one more thing to say before we head to break. Callum with the cool comment. I don't know if this is true or not. Callum's always talking. Callum's talking more than anyone else on Locked On Canucks. Okay, he talks more than us. This guy should have his own podcast. Okay, he's talking about Elliot Friedman apparently saying that Kuzmenko is somebody the Capitals may want. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I've heard the Freeman rumors, and I think we kind of theorized that Kuzmenko could be a fit. If you want to go check that out, check out our episode on the feed. Should the Canucks trade Andrei Kuzmenko? And the Capitals make sense for a couple of reasons. A, they got the cap space with Backstrom on LTIR. And B, obviously have a pretty extensive history of Russian players in that organization. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if that trade really makes sense for either team. Like Kuzmenko, I mean, again, he's younger than the Capitals' core, so I guess that's a good thing. But I'm not sure if the Capitals are going to give up a whole lot of assets to acquire Andrei Kuzmenko.
Keep Kuzmenko, man. Just keep Kuzmenko, dude. Because, the Canucks are going to do what? They're going to trade some assets to get a top 6 winger, a top 6. Yo, how about we just, again, develop Kuzmenko develop the relationship between Tocchet and Kuzmenko. Christmas is coming up. Maybe they should spend Christmas together. A lot of good things happening with the Vancouver Canucks, okay? That relationship really matters. It's the most important thing happening with the Vancouver Canucks. Kuzmenko is now our X factor, because if he comes back into form and is elite, the Vancouver Canucks, man, a team that already has 22 wins. Callum telling us the Canucks did not hit 22 wins until February last season. That same team, if Kuzmenko comes back, they are Stanley Cup contenders with the best goaltending in the league. Also, boom, bam. All right, Begsy. Let's cut to break. You're listening to Locked On Canucks. I don't know who we're shouting out, but Begsy knows. Who is it?
Okay, we're shouting out Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Elias Pettersson could score 50 goals. The Canucks could hoist the Stanley Cup. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is my number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Niels Amon, Niels Höglander, or Kirill Kaprizov will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canucks fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Boom, bam, boom. Begsy, you're incredible at your ad reads, man. Congratulations. What up? What up? We back on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. Subscribe to the show if you haven't and you're enjoying the program. If you're not enjoying the program, you don't have to do what I just said to you. We're all Canucks. Don't lie to yourself. Let's save the world with one less lie at a time. And also shout out to our listenership on the audio side. Man, oh man, we're living the dream, man. 1,300 subscribers. We're talking the Canucks. We're 30 years old. We got hot women in our lives. I just called your woman hot, your wife hot. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Okay, we're living a blessed life. Okay. Speaking of which, I was really, really sick yesterday. Really sick. And there she was, my hot girlfriend, delivering me a batch of tea, a whole bunch of vitamin C, a lot of Tylenol, and Neocitrin. Yo, Neocitrin, that ish works, man. We need to be sponsored by Neocitrin. There's no Locked On Canucks today without Neocitrin. Okay, Beggsy?
Hey, fair enough, man. I'm a big I was just talking to a coworker recently. I've never had Benadryl in my life. Apparently, people swear live and die by that. But Neocitrin, I'm a big Neocitrin fan. You know, when the throat's killing, when the fever's got you aching, some Neocitrin before bed. Oh man, that's that puts you out like a light.
Like a light. Oh, little Drake, Travis Scott reference right there. Okay. Anyways, another good comment from Elston. Oh, this guy, man, becoming one of the most popular guys on the show. We need Kuzi to regain form and solidify that top line. What other options do we have? I'm pretty sure we might have found one of the options in Pius Suter, okay? And I know we've been bouncing around people playing with Pettersson, right? Mikheyev's the guy who's going to stay there. He's going to stay there forever. We get that. We had Lafferty. Now we have Suter. We've also had Kuzmenko. I am a lot more comfortable, and this is kind of scary for me to say because I want Kuzmenko to get that chance again, but I'm way more comfortable with Pius Suter up there instead of Lafferty because I don't know. Okay, the best way to describe this is when I see Suter and Pettersson play together 5-on-5, sometimes I have trouble figuring out who is who on the ice because they're both cerebral when it comes to their hockey sense. It's just, it confuses me. I need glasses in general, but when I'm watching these games over the last two games, again, I'm having trouble differentiating, if that's how you say it, between the two players because they just remind me of each other and their IQ.
Yeah, and I think Pettersson, Suter, and Mikheyev have had a couple of really strong games. So honestly, everyone in Canuck line had a great night last night, including the players on the ice, including the fans. The one guy who did not have a good night is Andrei Kuzmenko because now all of a sudden you had Lafferty go on the line with Pettersson, Mikheyev. He looked good. You have Suter up there with Pettersson and Mikheyev. He looked good. And Pettersson was very complimentary of Pius Suter after the game. I don't have the direct quote or the clip in front of me, but Pettersson basically said that he likes having Suter on that line. And it's because Pius Suter is also a center. So he feels like Suter has his back if he pinches more, which I think fans might read as a slight to Kuzmenko. I think Pettersson just trying to be complimentary of his teammate, but it was an interesting quote and not something we've heard from Pettersson. The fact that he has a center on his line, like you said, Kyle, plays a very cerebral game. And it allows him to know that he has backup if he pinches a bit more. And we saw that last night, right? Pius Suter created the turnover on the first goal of the game in the Canucks' own end, sprung Pettersson the other way, where he ripped it past Jase Medical.
Yeah, that goal's not happening if Kuzmenko's on the top line. And it's just based on the hockey logic that you just broke down. You know, Pettersson's not there on the ice 5-on-5 if Suter's not his winger, because if it was Kuzmenko, Pettersson would be down low. And then he's not getting that outlet pass and just burning Tyson Barrie on the wing. And that was a huge goal. The game was kind of dull. You know, Casey DeSmith played huge in the first period. It was a quote unquote good road period, 0-0. You're playing the hottest team in the league, but Pettersson broke that game open. And it's mainly because he was allowed to play like a winger on that one shift.
Yeah.
And Pettersson getting the puck more in the neutral zone and being the first one out the neutral zone with the puck on his stick with this swagger, because I'm seeing it. I'm definitely seeing the swagger from him. He didn't have the best game 5-on-5 against Chicago, and in Minnesota, but in recent history, recent film, you can kind of see that this guy's getting that juice back. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing. I don't know if I'm just being biased towards one of my favorite players of all time, but PD is slowly coming back, and that's a scary thing for the rest of the NHL.
Yeah, I felt this for a while now that Pettersson's back. And then as soon as I felt that in early December, I know he didn't have a great game defensively against the Devils. I was at the Minnesota game. He wasn't fantastic in that game either. So he's had some lulls, but I think for the most part over the past few weeks, we've seen the return of Elias Pettersson. And here's the thing, with this new first line right now, I mean, full credit to Ilya Mikheyev. I think he's been kind of one of the unsung heroes on this team. It's not just that Pettersson's carrying Mikheyev along. I mean, Mikheyev really fits on that line. He forechecks hard, has good speed. He's pretty smart with the puck. He's not some sublime playmaker or anything like that, but knows how to get. It's like just does a lot of little things right. Little things Mickey out there, and with Pia Suter again, another two-way defensively responsible forward. Was looked good there. I mean, I know it's very early days for the line, but in 19 even strength minutes together, they have an 81% Corsi percentage. So that they've created 22 shot attempts and only been on the ice for 5 against. Outshot the opposition 13-2 when they're on the ice, and they've outscored the opposition 3-0 when they're on the ice. So really good early returns for the new look Canucks top line. By the way, I have the numbers here in front of me. Looking at Kuzmenko, when Kuzmenko's not on the ice with either Ilya Mikheyev or Elias Pettersson, his numbers are pretty bad. They're at 43% Corsi for and outshot 11-17 when he's on the ice. So again, Kuzmenko, man, it was a tough day. I fully believe. I said it yesterday. Every day is no. I think Kuzmenko should be back in the lineup. I honestly think he should be top 6. Although I get the fact that Talk's trying to teach him a lesson. You can afford to do it right now. But man, oh man, it's just like Kuzmenko is lost in no man's land right now because I'm not sure when or where he's getting back into the lineup. Although I'm sure it's going to happen soon. But
Jeff Patterson had this really interesting stat, and I don't know if we're nitpicking right now. And I'm totally one of those sports fans who wants their star players to just lean into like what got them there. And I understand that you can't really ask a player like Kuzmenko to do it all, but post being healthy scratched in back-to-back games, Kuzmenko has 0 hits. 0 hits. Not even getting a favorable check on the stat sheet from the guy who's taking control of the box score, after being a healthy scratch in back-to-back games. And just overall, I think you want to see Kuzmenko more engaged. And we go back to that Chicago game. It was a close game. And during the first 2 periods, you barely saw anything from Kuzmenko. And you can't have moments like that, man. And we look at a guy like completely different players. Like, I understand, man. So different. But Höglander, man, that guy is just noticeable all the time. And it really comes down to compete. And again, different players, but I feel as if Tocchet is just really trying to hammer into his guys that you need to compete every time you're on the ice. And just start there, Kuzi. Start there. And I don't know, do you think he gets in against Dallas? In Dallas, I mean, PDG, he didn't get a point. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think he gets back in, but it's going to be in a fourth line role where he hasn't been successful, right? Actually, I'm not quite sure.
No. It's also going to be on the power play. It's also going to be
every line scored against Nashville. Every line scored at even strength, and he's been kind of double clutching on the power play as well. So again, I think he's in a tough spot right now. Yeah. I think he does get back in. I'm going to say he replaces like a PDG, maybe even a Lafferty potentially, but probably PDG. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not an easy spot for Andrei Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko trending down, Pettersson right now trending up. Pius Suter and Ilya Mikheyev also trending up. That whole new look first line is looking pretty damn good. A weird combination for sure. Did not think that would be the Canucks first line here as we approach Christmas, but here we are. And I would say sometimes it looks weird, but it works. Shout out to Buckley's. I know we've talked about a lot of cold medicine on the show.
I like Buckley's, man. I don't like the taste, but I love how it always works. What? You never had Buckley's before?
Never had Buckley's. No.
Remember that marketing? It tastes like ass,
but
it
works. It
okay,
tastes like
I thought
ass.
it said it tastes.
Wow.
What?
Oh.
What? Okay.
Some people like that though.
What?
Anyways, let's wrap up the show here. I want to talk a bit about Nikita Zadorov and who he said his favorite defenseman is. You might have heard on the Drop in the Gloves podcast, but if not, I'll tell you on their side, and we'll wrap up again with a little Canucks defense talk here on Locked On Canucks. Before we get to that, I got to shout out FanDuel, baby. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Man, oh man, I said it yesterday. I'm just going to say it again. I'm not always right, but I said the Seahawks were going to at least cover, if not win straight up. I said I would put money on them to win straight up, though. And guess what? They did that against the Philadelphia Eagles. Kyle, right now, would you be – I'm going to tell you the odds for the Green Bay Packers to make the playoffs. They are plus 300 to make the playoffs. So that means if you bet $10, you get 30 back. Would you be doing it?
Of course I would. I'm loyal, man. Why do you keep asking me dumb questions, bro? You never met anyone
plus 300
loyal
like
to
that.
me.
Those odds aren't great. Those odds aren't great, but nice little payout if you believe in your team.
Dude, go Pack Go. I'm loyal. Continue.
By the way, the Seahawks are minus 150 to make the playoffs. They got a bit of a cupcake schedule down the stretch here. So I think I'd be placing a few bucks there. I'm not sure if I love the value on that, but I think the Seahawks are going to make the playoffs with, I believe it's the Steelers, Titans, and Cardinals to wrap up the season. Do you know who the Packers play to wrap up the season?
They play They play the Chicago Bears. They also play. Why am I losing this? Why am I losing this schedule? I just got sick. Okay. They have an easy schedule too, don't they? Like a really easy schedule. Do we play the Vikings again?
It looks like you play the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. Come on,
there
man.
You go.
Ooh, maybe that plus 300 isn't so bad.
Yeah.
Whether you're betting on the Seahawks, whether you're betting on the Packers, make sure you do so on FanDuel. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, overs, unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Boom, bam. Oh, my bad. Let me press that again. Okay, you're back on Locked On Canucks live. Still learning how to use this system. I've told myself this many times before I go to bed at night. January 1st or January 2nd, it's a new era of Locked On Canucks, and things are going to sound and look very, very different. Trevor Baggs on my left, I guess. I haven't asked you this in a long time, okay? Christmas is coming up. You got a big family. It's different this time around. How you doing, man? How's life, man? You just told me you have some family photos coming up soon. Like, are you ready? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, Friday's a big day. I got the photos with Santa with the family, and I also did a Christmas shop, man. I have not Christmas shop for my wife yet, and that's a big no if you're in a long-term relationship. So, gotta get it done, man. Gotta get it done,
dude. Man, you're just gonna get her some candles again, bro.
I already got her one candle. It's the only thing I bought her.
Dude, did she light the candle from last year? Like, has that even happened yet?
She lit some of them. I got her too many. That was the problem.
Dude, let us know.
She asked for one specific one.
Let us know in the comments below if Trevor Baggs, should he probably get his wife something other than a candle for Christmas? The same, like the mother of your children, not just children. Come on, bro, step it up, man. Make her a necklace.
I got my list, man. I got my list. You know what? I don't think any of my gifts will be as shocking as who Nikita Zadorov said his favorite defenseman was. Okay, so I wanted to bring this up because I think it's kind of funny. But on the Dropping the Gloves podcast with John Scott, Nikita Zadorov was on the show. And basically, John Scott asked him which defenseman was better, Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar. Now, of course, Zadorov has played with both Hughes and Makar, so it was an interesting question. And he chose to say it would have been fair for him to say, like, oh, I don't want to pick either one because, I play with them, blah, blah, whatever way you want to dance around it. But he chose to say, no, Roman Josi is the best defenseman in the NHL. And I found that very interesting. And his take was kind of based on the longevity. He kind of said Yosi's been carrying the Predators for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And that's why he deserves to be the best defenseman in the NHL. Talk about how good he is in transition.
He's so good, man.
So kind of an interesting answer. Kyle, can you see where Zadorov's coming from? Saying Roman Josi is better than Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar?
Yo, before Carlson put up 100 points, like Josi put up 90, didn't he? Like a couple years ago? Like
96, yeah.
Yeah, Roman Josi is incredible. Incredible, man.
Did he look incredible last night?
Dude, no, he wasn't that good last night, okay? But, man, oh, man, that guy's a good-looking dude, too, man, and a multi-millionaire, and one of the best at his profession. What does he do? Like, do you think this guy definitely doesn't litter? He probably picks up other dogs' poop, not just his. He's one of those guys, super nice guy. Getting it all, man. You know when they say, like, you can't have it all? How can you say that when you look at Roman Josi in the stat sheet? Unbelievable. Something else, man. Anyways, let's get to more of these comments before we get out of here on the live chat, because that's how I'm feeling. We got Elston again. When are we getting a Locked On Live from Amsterdam Cafe? I've been to Amsterdam Cafe, I think 3 times in the last 30 days. I've had a couple meetings there. I've been thinking of more ideas, not only for this show, but for all the other shows that we're making out of the Don't Doze Art Lab. And it would be a cool place to do a Locked On Canucks live thingy, you know, with you and I. I think it would be actually pretty incredible and really, really Vancouver. Shout out to that establishment. One of the few real Vancouver establishments in downtown. Like it just reeks like Vancouver. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, straight up. I mean, I don't know about the Amsterdam Cafe, but Kyle and I should be linking up live tomorrow night. I plan on making the trek from Chilliwack to South Van to hang out with Kyle in the studio, watch the Canucks Stars game, and we'll have a little show for you probably, most likely Thursday after the Canucks.
Ooh, and Stars a little post-game show. A little post-game show, eh? Okay, might as well. Might as well after a couple brewskis, after a couple pre-rolls. One more comment. This is a big one, okay? And I'm going to ask you a big question here, and I want an in-depth answer, and then you're going to sign us out, okay? The Vancouver Canucks are 7-1, and I think there's actually 7-1-1 since trading for Zadorov. Personally, I want to touch on this. I get it. You know, the trickle-down effect, it allows, you know, guys like Noah Juleson to play less. It allows, you know, Friedman to not be a part of the lineup, a.k.a. not having Friedman and Juleson in your lineup. Good things are going to happen. Apparently, really good things are going to happen. This all being said, I would come nowhere close to signing Nikita Zadorov to a 6-year deal, a 5-year deal, or just a deal that's paying him more than $4 million. I personally think, yeah, he's done well for us and he's an X factor type of guy, but I don't know. Something about him just seems replaceable. Not his speed and size, but just his overall game. I feel like he's like an 83 overall, an 82 overall. I don't know if you want to be giving those guys term, you know what I'm saying? And money. I just think that for this year, it's cool, but I'm really, really hesitant and scared to give this guy more than $4 million a year.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of think of, again, bad comparable to Chris Tanev, but I'd be comfortable with a 4-year deal. But again, you don't really want to be going too high on the AAV, right? Like, I think four Eric Branson got 4 times 4, so I think Nikita Zadorov could easily get 4 times 4. Yeah. But yeah, and how's Columbus doing now? Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they did score 9 goals last night. I'm not sure if Eric Branson scored 1 or not, but I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 times 4, I think for me personally would be the absolute max. I would go with Zadorov, but take him from his age 28 to age 32 season, lock him up for some years where he theoretically should be pretty good, be contributing. But again, that $4 million is kind of like low end top 4 defenseman, high end third pairing defenseman, which I think suits what Zadorov is.
But, sorry to cut you off. I was going to let you go. I just do that to, you know, give you a little cue. Anyways, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he can get better. And he kind of alluded to this too. I saw a quote. I don't know what interview it was from, but he mentioned how over here it's different in Vancouver because who's coaching him? It's not just Tocchet, it's Gonchar and Adam Foote. And maybe there's a new level to this dude's game that we haven't seen yet. And that's overall just more consistency and making less mistakes. And we've kind of seen that over the last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's, again, interesting comment that I know the Canucks are like 7-1-1 or 7-1-1 since Zadorov came. His first game was that 4-3 win over the Flames on December 2nd. Look, I think there's been a lot of things that have happened there. I think, and again, Noah Juleson been a bit of a whipping boy here on this show, but he's picked up his game. I think Zadorov and Myers looked really shaky in that Devils game, but I think the team learned some lessons collectively in that game. Both that Devils game and the beginning of that Wild game. I feel like there's been a bit of a turnaround since then where the Canucks have had some lulls, but they certainly haven't been bad for 60 minutes, right? They found ways to win. Look, this Canucks team isn't perfect right now, but this defense, again, is right back up to at least around league average. And if you can have a league average defense when you have an elite offense and elite goaltending, league average is all you really need. But your point, Cal, don't be throwing the bank at a guy like Zadorov when really he's just another piece in the league average defense. I think that's a good way of looking at it. What do you think this show is podcast average or not? We appreciate you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Canucks.
Thank you.
Every day, an occasional listener, a first-time listener, or a new subscriber, or someone joining us here on the live chat. We love each and every one of you, your families, your dogs, your pet fish, maybe even your pet birds as well. Again, Kyle and I will record something either tomorrow morning or pregame before the Stars game. And then we'll record something post game on Thursday, and that might be up until Christmas. Might take a couple of days off over the holidays here, but we are your Locked On Canucks, your team every day, so we will not be off for too long. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bound. Love all of you, and we love you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.